friends, and welcome back to the weekly update. Welcome back to page tuning. I am still learning how to use these different sounds and stuff, so I'm trying to add in the intro and outro music, so bear with me. I also have some other interesting sounds I've been trying to add to this little device thing that I have to add some humor and some other things to the recordings just for fun. So yeah, I've been trying to do some. I had time this week, so I've been trying to add in funny sounds and wasting my time with nonsense. Anyway, welcome to the weekly update. This is where I talk about what I've been reading, what I'm going to read, what I won't get to, and everything else in between. Thank you for joining me. And so this week, we did start The Crossing. It's the second book in the Border trilogy. So The Crossing is a lot different than All the Pretty Horses. And of course, it's hard when you have a first book in a series it's like, you really, really love. The second book, it has some pressure because it has to perform up to that level. And so far, The Crossing has not done that. I do enjoy, of course, the writing and the setting. It just doesn't have, it doesn't have the same character depth. It doesn't have kind of the charm and it just doesn't have as much of what the first book had. I'm trying really hard not to spoil anything. I will be breaking down chapter 1, breaking down like I'm some kind of expert. I'm just going to be talking about what I thought about chapter 1 coming this Wednesday. So if you are reading along, that'll be on Wednesday, and every chapter every Wednesday after that. Last week we did have the discussion for All the Pretty Horses. So sorry that took longer than we thought. It's just getting everyone into the same space at the same time. But yeah, but so far, it's good. It's still very, very good writing. It's still a solid book. It's just so far not as good as All the Pretty Horses. And it's just that second book has a lot to live up to. So not fair to the second book, but it is what it is. I've only read the first chapter, so who knows? I've also been reading the third book in Malazan, Memories of Ice. Third book, right? Yeah, this is the book that I struggled with the most the first time reading it, and I can still think back to when I read that book the first time. It's a lot of characters, and there's characters from past books, and there's events from past books that they reference, and there's so many people, and then people get different names, and it's a lot. So it's been good to have people to help me with this one because it is hard to keep up, and doing about 100 pages every 2 weeks has been a big help for me. There's been a lot of stuff that I completely missed that other people have talked about on the podcast in our discussions. So hopefully, if you are reading along with us, you're getting some value from that. Also, I do plan to start All That We See or Seem by Ken Liu. It's an arc that I was able to get from Ken Liu. He offered to give me an advanced reader copy. And of course, I accepted. The book does release in October. So I don't want to read it too fast because I can't really, whenever you get an arc, you want to have a review and talk about it, kind of hype it up. If you liked it, of course. You want to kind of give it a, closer to release date. I don't want to read it now in June and then have, talk about it in June when it doesn't release until October. So I'm going to spread it out, really take my time with it, and then have, maybe September, October, start to really talk about it more. And, I think we all have those authors that we listen to that we really enjoy. And whenever you see their name on something, you automatically think, well, I'm going to enjoy that just because it's, usually enjoy what they write. And Ken Liu's one of those authors for me. Just whenever I see his name on something, I'm willing to take a chance because I know it's going to be good. Just there's lots of authors out there that just, if their name's on something, I don't care what it is, I'll read it. I'm sure everyone has that kind of thing going for them. So, yeah, also we have been reading The Chris Claremont run on X-Men, I believe we're up to issues 108 and 109. We are reading that on Panel Chewing. The reason we chose that is because it's available free on Hoopla and on Libby. So if you'd like to read along with us and go back and relive these books that were written like 30 years ago, it is interesting to see, that, especially the dialogue back then versus now, and how everything is spelled out for you. There's really no nuance. Everything is just very straightforward, and everything that happens is explicitly told to you. It's just a different way of storytelling, and it's fun to go back and to relive these books that I read when I was, I don't know, 10 or 11. I used to get the books in the mail every week, and it was where they would ship them to you, it'd be in like a flimsy little board, and the books came wrinkled and beat up, and yeah, but it was fun. So reliving my childhood a little bit. It's been fun. So if you'd like to join us, I'd love to have you on Panel Chewing every Thursday, sometimes Fridays. Depends on what time we record on. Well, we record on Thursdays, but we'll see when they get released. So I mentioned last week that my book of the month, my comic book of the month, was Assorted Crisis Events number 2, and I thought, why don't I talk about my pick of the week when I do have one on my weekly update? I'll just quickly talk about Assorted Crisis Events number 3. It's another really great book. It has, so basically in the book there's a crisis, like a time crisis, and there's basically 2 Earths. One Earth is this like dystopian situation where the Earth is falling apart, and the 2 Earths connect, and your doppelganger, your mirror image, is on the other side, and they want to come over to Earth 1. Earth 1 is in decent shape. And at first, everyone's kind of like, yeah, of course, come on over. And then eventually, not everyone is up to sharing everything. So it's the way that the book is written. It's like a mirror on each page. One page mirrors the other page. So one page is like Earth 1, and the other side is Earth 2, and the 2 different situations on both Earths. And it sounds silly, but it really works. And for those of you who avoid comics because you think it's all capes and cowls and rescuing cats out of trees and stuff like that, it's really not. This is a book definitely to check out. If you're wanting to get into comic books and you're not sure where to start, if you don't already have a franchise that you really like that's been adapted, like Star Wars, or like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or if you're like Batman or Superman or whatever, those books, of course, those books are there, but there's a ton of Star Wars books. There's some really solid Star Wars books too. But if you'd like to, get into something different, this is definitely one to check out. If you wanted to check out comic book, there's tons of manga out there too that are a little bit easier to get into. So yeah, that's my book of the week, my pick of the week. Hear more about that on the podcast, last pick of the week podcast. That was Jared's pick too. So that was a really good book. That rarely happens. When Mike and I did it, and now with Jared, it wasn't too often we both had the same pick every week. We both picked our favorite book of the week that we read. It's not too often, so it must be good. Okay, so also we had a kind of a last minute Friday conversation recording this last weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I can't believe Saturday. So we recorded episode 150. A couple of people showed up, and we had a bunch of topics to discuss. One of the topics I'll discuss here in a minute, but that'll be released on Friday. Finally got that episode recorded. It's been a while. I would like to get that semi-regular again, not weekly, but maybe once a month or once every 2 months. So hopefully that'll be something that I get back on track with, and have normal episodes again. I don't do interviews a whole lot anymore if it's not someone that, like I've asked Alan Moore to an interview. It's been over a year, but I asked Alan Moore, and he was very polite, declined, of course. But unless it's someone that I'm really, really wanted to talk to, I just don't bother anymore. And the reason for that is because I got ghosted a ton. There's this website called Podmatch that I used for a while, and it matches you with other people in your kind of, like I was there as a podcaster, and there's people there as authors or editors or whatever, and they would match you kind of with people that are in the same niche. And I had a ton of people there who wanted interviews, and I would make time, make myself available for the specific time and day, and then they wouldn't show up, or they would cancel last minute, or what. And it's incredibly frustrating. And I just got frustrated, and it just was just done. It was just I had enough. I just didn't want to bother with it anymore. I needed a break. And unless it's someone that I'm really, really excited to talk to, that I reach out to, or that somehow reaches out to me, and I just don't really do a whole lot of interviews anymore. The Friday conversations are just random forum hangouts most of the time, or if someone there wants to promote a book or promote something they're doing, then we have an excuse to hang out and talk. But otherwise, it's just random, just kind of shooting the shit kind of thing. So keep your eyes out for that. Also, we are doing the Oscars project on Film Chewing. We are watching every Oscar Best Picture winner from 1960 up until current day. The last episode we recorded was, what was it? I forget. Oh, The French Connection. The next one we're going to record is The Godfather. I haven't watched it yet. That's the next one, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Those get released every other Saturday. So if you're interested in that, that is a bit of fun experiment. Lots of musicals. And musicals are fun, I guess, but there's lots of music. So when I first started the YouTube channel and the podcast, kind of my attitude was always, I'm going to read what I want to read, and if people listen, then that's cool. And I've always done that, but I've gotten sidetracked a little bit on things where, someone wants, I get asked to read it, just to read a book, or we have a group read, or whatever. And now that my schedule is, slowing down a little bit, I'm starting to wonder, what do I get into next? Because I look at my stats and my downloads and everything. And on one hand, of course, I want to read what I want to read, and I don't want to do things just for downloads or for listeners or whatever. But at the same time, the stuff that I've done, like the Cormac McCarthy stuff, I love. I love reading Cormac McCarthy, and his stuff is really popular. It gets a lot of attention. Some of my most downloaded episodes are the Cormac McCarthy episodes. Also, the Second Apocalypse stuff is very, very popular. And of course, that's my favorite series. So that makes me happy because I'm sharing something I really like and people dig it. So it feels good. Like, it's nice. I'm not working, on spending time on something and then nobody cares. It's just kind of wah, wah. So, I want to do stuff that people listen to. Otherwise, it's kind of a bummer. So that's a long way of saying that I've been thinking about kind of doing, I read the first Crossed arc. Crossed, for those who don't know, is an extreme horror comic book written by Garth Ennis, also known for The Boys and for, about Punisher Max. He was Boys, Punisher Max, and another major, Preacher. And if you watch the TV show, don't judge Preacher on the TV show. That show is absolute crap. Don't judge it on that. But he's written some other very good, very popular franchises. Anyway, he and Jason Burrows had first story arc on Crossed. It is a story about a contagion that makes people lose all their inhibitions. It basically makes people want to live out their darkest desires, and they go out and kill and maim and torture, and it's very, very violent. It's over the top. It's very gory. It is not for the faint of heart, but it's one of my favorite stories. One of my favorite comic book arcs. The first Crossed run. There were some other runs from other authors that was done, and it is very hit and miss. I don't enjoy all of them, but the first Crossed run is one of my favorites. I read it almost yearly, not multiple times per year. But I was thinking, why don't I just have like a, read each issue and then release kind of like a breakdown of each issue every week. So I think that'll be coming here shortly, just to share something I really like reading and something that people seem to enjoy. If you'd like more information on Crossed, I do have a blog post that I wrote about a year ago, and it breaks down all the different story arcs and all the different authors and kind of my thoughts on each one of them. So if you're interested or want to read along, check that out. Keep in mind, it is not for the faint of heart. It is very violent, very gory. It is, yeah, it's 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 over the top. So if that's not your thing, no, don't bother getting into it because it's you're not going to like it. But anyway, so I'll be doing that here, maybe the next couple of weeks to start that. But I will be sure to give everyone a heads up and talk about each one. It is nice to share something that I love, and then people, have people like to listen to it, because otherwise, what's the point? Okay, so on the last week on the update, I talked about starting to watch The Eternaut on Netflix. It is a dystopian, it's an end of the world story where it starts to snow. This isn't too much of a spoiler, but it starts to snow. This is an Argentinian story. It's adapted from a comic book. It starts to snow and people start to die. If you're out in the snow, you die, and a lot of people are killed off. And the story kind of goes from there. It feels like there's elements of The Mist, and there's some like Stephen King type of stuff. It's a cosmic horror type of story, and I really liked it. I thought it was good. I really dug it. Like, it has some twists and turns, and it has some unexpected surprises. I guess all surprises are unexpected, but you know what I mean. And then I finished the first season, and it's like, okay, like season 2, here I come, and I look it up, and it's like, season 2 will be the end of won't be finished until at the end of 2027. Well, shit. Okay, that's it's a bummer when you get into something that you really like, and then you have to wait like years for it to get really. It's too bad. But if you would like to watch a good story, if you're into that sort of story, then I definitely recommend The Eternaut Netflix stuff. So on the Friday conversation, we discussed George R.R. Martin. There's been some gossip recently on. There's been some misleading headlines about what he said in a recent interview. In a recent interview, he says something like, somebody asked him about finishing the series, and he's finishing Song of Ice and Fire, and he says something like, well, people are going to say I'm never going to finish it, and people are going to say I'm on a beach vacationing and I don't care. And, he kind of said it in this sarcastic way. And it got taken, I feel like it got really unfairly taken out of context. Because in a lot of headlines, it was like, he said, I'm never going to finish it. That's not what he said. He said, of course, he's still kind of brewing on it. So I with this topic, I think I won't spoil anything, but with the TV show, I think everyone universally dislikes the end of the TV show. And the story goes that he had given the two writers, Dan and Dave, kind of a framework for how the story would end. How he planned to end the story, and they used that framework in finishing the TV show. Now, the TV show was rushed. There's some other reasons for that, but it was supposed to be a few more seasons, and they rushed it for various reasons, and it did not turn out the way that it should have. So let's say that the TV show is exactly how George R.R. Martin planned to finish the book. Based on the reaction, which is 95% negative, I would say. Based on the reaction, if you're George R.R. Martin, how can that not get in your head and think, maybe I shouldn't write this story. Maybe I shouldn't finish it this way. I don't know how that can't go through your mind. So I think he's in a bad position, because if he finishes it and it's the same, people are going to tell him, well, you should have changed it. We hate this ending. You should have changed it. If he changes it, does something else, people are going to say, well, you should have stuck to your ideas and finished it the way you wanted to. And so either way, he's screwed. I mean, either way, people are going to be unhappy. So for those reasons, I don't think he's ever going to finish it. I don't think we're ever going to see an end to this story. And if we do, it won't be until after he has left us. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, if ever. But which is too bad. the cultural phenomenon that was the Game of Thrones TV show for him was a blessing and a curse. Just a blessing because he sold a lot of books. He made a shit ton of money. He continues to make a shit ton of money. But at the same time, it's kind of felt like it derailed his magnum opus, like his, the story he wrote that most people really like. But it's sad in a way. It's kind of sad, but maybe one day we'll see a story. I just don't know if it'll what he ever intended it to be. Also, I forgot to mention last week, but the Rings of Power TV show got canceled. I'd never seen it, but I was surprised that they canceled it. Not because I thought because I thought it was unfair or whatever. From what I heard, it was not good. The first season was not good. The second season improved, but it lost half its viewership from the numbers that I've seen. And I was only surprised because they spent so much money on it that they did not stick with it. We kind of see that now with Rings of Power, where it's just not, the viewership has dropped off, and you wonder when are they going to throw in the towel and like let it rest for 5 or 10 years and then come back and try again. I just think these fantasy shows are expensive to make. They're on existing properties that have a fan base that will revolt if you weren't loyal to the stories. We see that with The Witcher. They even ignored the author of The Witcher. He was trying to offer suggestions and like, nah, we're good, thanks. We have this figured out. And instead of just adapting the story, they try to change it. It's popular for a reason. Like, just adapt the story, change what you have to change, because you can't go one for one, of course. But like, it's too bad. It really is. I'm not the biggest fan of the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I think it's good. I don't think it's as good as everyone says it is, but it's good, and I think it is begging to be adapted. That show would be a perfect 3-season run. It doesn't have, like these big, huge, like dragons and all this wild fantasy stuff. I think the characters are perfect for an adaptation. I think the story is good. I'm not sure if the end would be popular. Maybe the end is what scares people. And I won't say what the end is, but it's divisive. The end is not universally like the series seems to be. But I think that is something that should be adapted. I think it would do really well, and I think it is. It would do big. I think it's perfect for an adaptation. I am surprised to see that. I think that Claremont, James Cameron, from out of here, he acquired the rights to The Devils, Abercrombie's new book, and he just has one book out. And it's weird. Like, why would you acquire the rights for The Devils? And First Law is sitting there, and it's done. Anyway, I'm not going to pretend I understand Hollywood or how that stuff works. So, it is what it is. But anyway, that's it for me this week. Thank you for listening. Thanks for hearing me blab about what I've been reading and random stuff. I hope you're having a great week, and I hope you are finding lots of books that you enjoy reading, and I hope that everything's going well for you. And so hope everyone's doing well out there, and we will talk to everyone very, very soon.